Hey, it's the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Welcome to another episode of the Mike Prince Show. Today is going to be a very special show, at least it was for me producing this one. Every now and then you run across a person that just blows you away, and this is the case for this episode. Came across a dynamic, productive panther by the name of Miss Tamika Newman. She is into the world of volleyball as a coach and a personal development consultant. Her network and organization is named Grit and Grind Athletics. So sit back and enjoy this very dynamic and informative interview with Miss Tamika Newman of Grit and Grind Athletics. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Enjoy today's episode, and we'll see you guys on the other side. And welcome to the Open Mic Broadcast Network. I am, of course, the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince, and you know it is our mission to try to bring you some news you can use. Today, we are so fortunate to have on the line with us, and I guess they will fall under the ranks of a PV legend because, if I'm not mistaken, their entire team was inducted into the Prairie View Hall of Fame as volleyball champions, and I'm speaking about none other than Coach Tamika Newman. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm great. Thank God it's Friday.
Yes, ma'am. It is Friday all day long, and as they say, twice on Sundays, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Well, look, first of all, thank you so much for making yourself available, not only for us, but for PV Nation and abroad. You've been doing some wonderful things on the court, outside the court. You've had a very extensive run. But you know what? Every now and then we run across people who say, well, I don't know who that was or who that is. So why don't you give us a introductory of Coach Tamika Newman and how you ended up at Prairie View and the run that you had and things that you're doing now. You got a very special project that you're kind of focused on right now. So bring us up to speed, if you would.
Yes. So I'm from Houston. I'm a North Sider, so very local. Grew up in a big family, raised by my grandparents. I'm one of those WNBA babies, so I was a kid when the WNBA was formed, and so that was the first dream I had. I was going to play in the WNBA. And then volleyball, my love for volleyball came a little bit after. Was a multi-sport athlete, did not want to choose, and that's part of the reason I wound up at Prairie View. I was recruited first by Coach Atkins and Coach, his name is slipping me. We called him Coach Moore. Coach Moore, Coach Atkins' assistant, called me and said, hey, J-Mo, we loved him. And he said, hey, you can, we saw you playing at a tournament because I played AAU basketball, and, you know, we think you'd be a great fit. I said, I have one question. Has anybody ever played two sports? He said, not that I know of. He said, I think it's been done, but nobody's done basketball and volleyball. I said, that's a goal of mine. He said, well, hey, I'm going to get in touch with the volleyball coach, and I'm going to let her know about you. So somehow in the background, Coach Jocelyn Renee Adams, was back in the high school coaching, who's a PV great, SWAC great, was a Prairie View volleyball coach, and saw me at a high school volleyball game and had already made contact with Coach Alicia Pete and said, brought up my name. And so when J-Mo saw Coach Pete and he brought up my name, it made sense that, hey, this is the same person. So volleyball reached out to me. I went down on a visit, and they gave me an opportunity to play both sports. So for the first 2 years, I did both basketball and volleyball. I was Coach Cooper's first class. So my last year playing was her first year of coaching. And then I decided to just finish off with volleyball, and that decision was great because the very next season we won the SWAC conference title. We returned a lot of people the next year, which was my senior year, and wasn't quite able to pull it off. I want to say we finished third, but I got Conference Player of the Year, had a really breakout season. So I like to say I had about as good of it as a career you can have at a small Division I. I didn't even dream that big. My dream stopped at I want to, go to college. I was one of the first in my family to do so. I want to get an athletic scholarship. Again, was one of the first in my family community to do so. But going there and being as successful, I hadn't even thought that far ahead. So it was kind of magical. Then I rolled that. Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead. I mean, because I'm enjoying it. I'm relishing in this thing. Go right ahead.
And I graduated into the recession in 2008. I had done an internship with 610 Sports Radio. So on top of that sports dream, when I was about 13, I discovered sideline reporting and fell in love with Pam Oliver. So I was going to be the next Pam Oliver. She went to FAMU. I was going to PVU, PVAMU. So I had my eyes set on that. Didn't get a chance to do a lot with it because of my commitment to sports, but I did intern at 610 Sports Radio in Houston, thanks to Coach Cynthia Cooper. And didn't like radio, got a little discouraged, and so I decided to go to grad school and be a graduate assistant for none other than Charles McClellan. I kind of saw him in the summer, and he said, what are you going to do next? And so I don't know. He said, well, come be my graduate assistant. So I went over to Texas Southern, and I was Charles' grad assistant. And eventually we realized basketball could use some help with operations, so I traveled with women's basketball while I was getting my MBA. My second year of getting my MBA, I got called back to my old neighborhood by my best friend's dad, who played a really pivotal role. And he said, hey, there's this charter school in the neighborhood. They're looking for coaches. They just coach part-time. I hadn't ever really heard of that concept. He said, they'll work around your grad school schedule. You will be perfect for it. And it was Yes Prep, North Central. It was probably one of the first Yes Prep campuses in the Houston area. So I started to be a stipend or after-school coach for Yes Prep and said, oh, man, this coaching thing, I might want to do this. And I really made my mind up. I took a young lady home, and it serviced low-resource kids. Its goal was to help students be the first person in their family to go to college. Really great mission. I'm taking this young lady home, and when I pull up to her house, I realized very quickly there's people sitting outside. It's broad daylight. It's pitch dark in the house. The doors are open, windows are open. I can see extension cords running to the house next door. I can see water buckets. And very quickly, my hood sense kicks in that the lights are off and there's no running water. And right that day, I decided I wanted to see if I could stand in the gap for kids that were in similar situations. And so I graduated with a master's in business, a hard degree to get, and just decided to go into education. And so this fall will make 15 years of coaching volleyball. I did about 12 travel ball. I did 10 as a high school coach. 8 of those I was a head coach. Then I did the stint at Prairie View where I was an assistant. And all of those experiences, I turned a lot of my frustrations and the gaps I saw in coaching and in coaching athletes and as a coach into my personal business, which is Grit and Grind Athletics, where, number one, I mostly work with coaches and athletes in low-resource areas and coaches and athletes of color. And I cater to, sorry about that, heavy into personal professional development with coaches, and love coaching volleyball, but heavy on the mental skills aspect of being an athlete with the athletes. So I think I caught you up.
No, you are total epitome of when we say Prairie View produces productive people.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Absolutely powerful. You are mission driven, and I tell people all the time when we stop, and excuse the term I'm about to use, but it is what it is, right? When we stop prostituting ourselves for money, and we begin to work on a mission and work for passion, you will make more money than you could ever imagine when your motives are right. And when you saw the need of reaching back, as my grandmother would say, reaching back to help somebody else to give them a position. When I hear your story about being the first time of going to college in your family, our stories parallel each other so much. And this is not about me. This is about you, of course. But just to let you know how I believe that God is involved with everything that we do, whether we want to acknowledge him or not. I've been an advocate for students for 30 years of my life. I'm just now retiring from being the only African American on Waller Independent School Board for the past 15 years.
Wow.
You know, and I'm hearing the connection, and this is exciting me beyond what you could imagine. And when you talk about this turning dreams into reality for people who, don't even think about college because they're thinking about how I'm going to survive today. They're not even thinking they're good enough to be participating in other sport activity, but they're just doing it just so they don't have to go home, to keep them occupied with some heat, with some water, until they get back to their reality. And that is just awesome how you saw that thing instantly and became part of your driving force. I'm proud to say that I know you, man. I'm proud to say I know you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I went into it for the right reasons, and most educators and coaches do. But at about the 10-minute mark, after working really, really hard, and I grew, at the time, I called it burnout. And I took some time, and I said, okay, you know, God, if you put it on my heart to be a coach and an educator, but this thing is really frustrating, I had to take a minute and step back. And I realized I kind of had this hero complex because, you know, I just went full speed ahead with trying to save kids. And I kind of transitioned and I pivoted and I said, okay, I just want to be the guide, you know, help athletes, students understand and assess where they are, set some really ambitious goals, and then just work towards them with giving them the tools. And when I did that, I got kind of reinvigorated to get back out there and to get back into what I do now, which I work at a private school as a volleyball coach and an athletic director. So with a much smaller body of students, I really get to touch and impact everybody. But I had to, and we're seeing the trend in education where people are a little burnt out and tired. And for me, it worked to really go back and redefine my why. I was in it for the right reasons. I needed to come at it with a different approach, which is what I encourage coaches and educators to be innovative, do an old thing in a new way. So I came back kind of more energized to do education in a different way. And so I'm on my second career with coaching and in the secondary space, and I'm excited about it. And, of course, with my own business, I get a chance to really make it align with my values and mission. When I was a employer for some of my public schools, for the most part, our visions aligned and mission was the same, but the execution, I didn't always think we were effective. I don't always think we're effective in education with executing. But I'm able to do that through my personal business, and that brings me great, great joy. But, yes, I'm a productive Panther. When I left Prairie View, I was a huge advocate for Prairie View. Before I went back to coach with Coach Tyler, who's my former teammate, I had already sent her multiple girls. I'd already sent so many students to Prairie View, every school that I worked at. It was like my mission to get as many seniors to apply and attend Prairie View. So coming back to coach there was a really natural progression. One of my former high school players had just wrapped up a 4-year career there. She was a flag defensive player of the year. So it was a really natural thing to do because I had been pushing Prairie View. When I left, for me, it wasn't about, you know, what can Prairie View do for me? What has Prairie View done for me? What can they continue to do for me? It was like, now what can I do for Prairie View? And I try to encourage my peers to have that same mentality as an alumni.
Absolutely. Now, when you say that, it's ironic that you say that because sometimes when you have that mindset and that mission, what can I do for Prairie View, it has you sometimes drawing out what some would focus as being negative, but sometimes you have to address the negative to get a positive. And that means if there's a challenge, let's not run from that challenge. Let's acknowledge that challenge so we can get through this challenge. So when that challenge comes again, which eventually it will, especially when we're going at it with a nonchalant or passive approach. So let's nip this thing in the bud so we don't have to cross that bridge again. And if we do, it won't be a long bridge to cross.
Absolutely. That is absolutely the message that I preach. And I preach that to people. Hey, you got these challenges. And to young people, we can't overlook it. We've got to understand what's going on. And then we need the game plan of how we can do it better and how we can fix it. So that's the message I teach to young people all the time. Let's just address it. What's the challenges here?
So I got to ask you this question, Coach. I know that you're in a happy place right now. You're in a good place right now. And as we're doing this recording, Prairie View just hired, I believe, another teammate of yours, Cherie Lindsay. So did you think that, hey, maybe I can go back to Prairie View, even though you had some assistant coaching ties there? Did you even consider putting your name in the hat?
Yes, I considered it. But like you said, I'm really happy where I'm at. I have the flexibility to still do grit and grind athletics, my consulting business. And then I have a daughter who's 7, so she's at a crucial time in her educational journey. Mm-hmm. So I knew that it didn't exactly work with the work-life balance because it requires a great deal of work. And so Coach Lindsay, her career is on an upward trajectory. She's really sharp, really, really sharp. She's done a lot in a short time span. She actually came a few years after me at Prairie View, so she's a little bit younger than me, comes from her dad's a coach. All of her brothers are elite athletes. She's going to do well. She knows the Texas landscape for recruiting. She was just a hop, skip, and a jump away over in Oklahoma, so frequented Texas for recruits. So she understands the landscape. She's going to do a great job. And just the mere fact that she's an alumni, I'm excited about it. So she has my vote. I'm rooting for her.
Very good, very good. Now, when we talk about volleyball, we know that it's not the money maker that seem like if resources are thrown toward football, and they operate. In fact, football starts after volleyball has had a week or two under their belt, building up their non-conference schedule. And we know you can never truly compare apples to apples. But how do you work through that, and how do you promote your sport? I know you're a consultant, you got grit and grind, but how do you promote college volleyball, and let's go even further, HBCU volleyball in such a time as this?
It's a great question. You're giving me the hard questions early.
They're not hard questions, just good questions, because we really believe in the consciousness of female sports. I mean, I'm a football, baseball guy, basketball guy, but we have such fierce competition on our women's athletics that goes so far under the radar. And I know here at the Open Mic, we've been opening and operating Open Mic since 2002, and we have gone beyond the call of duty trying to make sure that the women get to shine as well, because it's not an easy task. You're dealing with multiple layers, just like you would with a male athlete. But, of course, we're talking about Olympic sports, and it goes from A to Z when it comes to financial support. And sometimes you have to work with a shoestring budget, but somehow you got to stay competitive, because that's not enough to use as an excuse for why you don't win, right?
Yeah, I think my goal and my mission when I got there, and I actually started Grit and Grind Athletics the year I took the job at Prairie View, is to be more community driven. I knew that we couldn't compete in terms of media coverage with the bigger schools, but my goal was that, and I wanted Prairie View. I really got locked in and connected with the high school coaches. Now, that was easy for me because I came from high school and I came from the travel ball community. So I really tightened the ties with those coaches. You know, I did coaches education. And so I thought, hey, let's open this place up. Let's run clinics. Let's invite high school and travel coaches into our space to see how we coach, to help them better prepare their athletes for making the jump. And that was important because for probably 2 decades, HBCU volleyball, we would accept kids that were basically an athlete, right? A lot of kids of color didn't have access to club volleyball. They came very refined. They were either basketball kids turned volleyball, like myself kind of, track kids turn volleyball, or just off the couch, I'm good, I'm a raw athlete, I can learn this very fast. So we were kind of getting projects. We weren't playing the most fundamental volleyball, but it was exciting to watch. You want to see some kids jumping out the gym. It was incredible. And so we were getting projects, and sometimes we were getting them from low resource areas. So just raw talent passing it to us. So I thought, let's increase the quality of coaching, teaching, and skill development. So that was my interest, period. And because I was at Prairie View, I wanted to do that through Prairie View. But that's my whole mission of Green Ground Athletics, to provide quality instruction where there won't be any. Now, big schools are going after. They have great relationships with the really successful volleyball clubs all over the country. They don't necessarily go back and give them anything. It's more, what can you send us? So I said, okay, let's flip it. How can we serve the coaches? And so I really wanted us to be, and I know Cherise, she'll do a great job of this, I really wanted us to specialize in quality instruction and coaches development. And not many people have taken that route. I see Coach Hugh Jackson, he does some clinics down at Grambling now, and that's great. I always thought HBCU coaches and colleges should do more coaches professional development. Get those high school and travel ball coaches into your facility to hear your philosophies, because let's be honest, most people believe the HBCU coach is inferior to the Power 5 or Group of 5 coach in terms of knowledge. And I know they're not. And so I encourage everybody. I'm like, hey, go speak at this clinic. You know, when I'll talk to Coach Smith. I saw he spoke at a clinic somewhere, and I text him, Coach, I love to see it. Coach Angela Williams, who's not at Prairie View anymore. Oh, my goodness. Do you know all the knowledge and expertise she has? I'm like, Coach, go teach, go develop. So for me, that might be way out of the box for some people, that was my angle, that I was going to help develop the coaches, and that was going to trickle down to the athletes. And so those places where we go and we like pockets where we like to get kids, I don't want to never get a kid from HISD. But if we can't get HISD coaches to get better at skill development, well, then I can't go there. But I want to go there because I'm a Houston native, because I believe in those areas and what they're trying to do. But I can't get a kid if we don't develop the coaches. So that my mission is heavy on coaches education. That was the contribution I thought I could make to the volleyball community, and I'd like to see more HBCUs do that.
Coach, you can't see it right now, but I'm over here doing a happy dance because I'm going to tell you why. It's not necessarily, we know that money helps any situation become a little bit better, right? But that's not the only source. And there was one word that kept resonating while I'm listening to you expound on that. And you know what that word is? Relationship. You got to cultivate relationships. I don't care what type of business you're in your case, volleyball. And I do have a question to ask you about radio when I go back here. But when you sit up here and you create the relationship, you have to make yourself available. You have to show that you are accessible and approachable. Whatever the tradition has been or what has never happened before. You know, I was reading a book the other day, and they say the sign of a sinking leader is when you present something unique or different to them, and the first thing they say, well, we've never done it that way before. Well, that's why you're in the rut that you're in, because nothing stays the same. And you have to create a new environment. I hear the word that I get tired of hearing, we have to develop a new culture. Well, the new culture is doing things a little bit unique and maybe not out of the norm of what traditionalists have done, but we're not in a traditional situation. We have our kids, as you're saying, that are not exposed to the club volleyball. My daughter was exposed to club volleyball. It's not cheap. It's not cheap at all.
No,
and when you try to make it accessible to, let's just say, a general public student athlete, it doesn't matter if they're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, but that general kid in a public high school setting, even if you do offer an after-school volleyball program, it's so subpar that it's almost a waste of time. But when these kids can understand, especially in volleyball, even more so than in basketball and track and field, there are so many opportunities of gaining a higher education through a proper skill set and introduction to volleyball. It might not be on a D1 level. It might be on a D2 level, NAIA level. But, Division III don't give out scholarships, but still the opportunity to get a higher education through the sport of volleyball.
The opportunities and the doors it's opened are incredible. You're right. I mean, it's I'm not saying all sports don't do it, but oh man, I've been in rooms I never would have imagined, and volleyball was really the catapult that allowed me to do so. So yeah, it is, and which is why I'm so driven to get volleyball in spaces that it traditionally won't be in, because I know that it will.
We're talking right now with Miss Tamika Newman, and a phenomenal woman, a productive Prairie View Panther. And I got to ask this question because my ears perked straight up. What was your distaste about radio?
Well, maybe the format. So first, I was an intern, and I went in the first couple of weeks, and nobody, I don't think I knew how to assert myself there.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I knew how to assert myself well, and so I kind of sat in a corner and did nothing until the guy that ran the switchboard said, well, hey, let me show you some of this. And I thank God for Prairie View. I had learned a little bit. So he ends up bringing me into the room with him, and I kind of start helping him make some transitions and do some different things. Of course, you're young and naive. My eyes were set on being the talent, which at the time was Rich Lord, and it was the Drive Time Players. So it was the evening group. But
Charlie Palillo and Rich Lord.
Yes. And so you can imagine that it was extremely intimidating for those two.
You remind me of a story. I was working in a small radio station, and this was way back when Rush Limbaugh had first came on the scene.
Okay.
And there was a guy, I just dated myself too, didn't I? There was this guy who kept calling me Bubba.
Oh, wow.
And I'm from St. Louis, and so that already should put you in the mindset that I was in at this time. So one day I said, hey, look, brother, I said, my name is Mike Prince. I say, you can call me Mike. You can call me Prince. You can call me Mr. Mike. You can call me Mr. Prince. I said, but if you call me Bubba one more time, there's going to be some furniture moving.
I know that's right.
And so, I didn't mean no problem. I call everybody, but I said, well, you won't be calling me Bubba. So when you say asserting yourself, I do understand when you're going back to that kid who might not have had that exposure, pure athlete, but when they see these other kids in the uniform shoes and the uniform warm-ups, and they're coming in, with mismatched sweatpants, and they just want to get out there and play. These guys are in their perfecting this thing. I can see the intimidating factor. But I bet if you had that opportunity now, you would go in there, stand in your ground, rearranging furniture without somebody calling you out your name.
I walk in there like God sent me in, like God sent me in there Himself.
Oh man, that is so funny.
I would. Yeah, so you know you have to learn that, and Prairie View prepares you to walk in a room like God sent you in there, and so. That was the last time I think I shrunk. I never felt that small again. You know, I said, okay, it's kind of like, you know, I do a lot of talking to athletes that are done with their college career. And it's like, remember the confidence, remember the courage it took to work toward being a college athlete. You had to compete every day. You got to get up, you got to get it. And you've got to reset your mind now that you're in the workforce, and you've got to go at it with that same vigor. And so I hadn't quite figured that out yet. I was in my second semester of senior year, and you're in a new space. I'm not on the volleyball court. I'm not on the basketball court. This is a whole nother court. And so it took me a year or two to really go back and say, no, I need to use these experiences that I had as an athlete. I need to bring that same drive to the workforce. And so, no, I wouldn't shrink like that now. But did that for a semester, and for me at the time, it confirmed all of the negative advice I got about wanting to go into sports radio and TV. You're not going to make any money, which was scary to me. I grew up broke. You're going to have to go to small town USA and try to make a name for yourself. It's just going to be horrible. You're black and you're a woman. You're at the end of the totem pole. And so when I went and did that internship, I'm like, yep, they right. I'm done, you know, and went on to graduate school and was going to go into athletic administration. But got the great opportunity, look at how God works, last November to do the color commentary for the SWAC tournament. I stood in with ESPN and did the color. And that was just out of nowhere. You know, that was a dream that I had forgotten about, but staying connected, always being willing to serve. I'm always volunteering at Texas Southern or Prairie View. I just sat on a panel at Texas Southern 2 days ago for a career fair for athletes, but kind of always being serving and staying relevant, and then giving, not saying what can I get, what can I give. I was in the right place at the right time and got a chance to do that. So that was such a huge honor. I probably am the first person to have played SWAC volleyball, and then, not probably, I am, and then got a chance to call the SWAC tournament for ESPN. It's like several historical things happened right there. I don't think I've even still realized the gravity of how big that was, but it was great.
Yeah, you'll be amazed at how, and I'm laughing when you say small town USA and not making the money. I've been doing this for over 30 years, right? And I've done this, and what motivated me to stay in this pocket, if you would, because our stories were not being told. Where else could a Coach Newman be heard other than a platform such as this? But when we were doing it, it wasn't everybody jumping out. You know, it's like you flip a switch. Everybody's a podcaster or a reporter nowadays. But we had the training to PVU, KPVU, thank you very much, and to get ready to put people in position to tell the story. We provided internships for PV athletics, or not athletics, but students in broadcasting since 2005. There are some going to the Weather Channel, ESPN, and other platforms throughout the country. And I remember interviewing my old general manager from KPV, Dr. Lori Gray. She said, well, maybe you think you're ready for that shot? When I don't call those other people out that you just did that work for. And they said, I said, well, no, I am the ESPN for this community. Because the stories that we dig to tell, they're not interested in, because it's not juicy enough in their eyes. But anyone that's going to hear this interview, if this is not juicy for them, they're numb. to HBCU.
I know that's right.
They're numb to volleyball. They're numb to the SWAC, and they're sure enough numb to Prairie View. This is part of my mission. This is part, and I am content in this mission. And I'm not going to turn this into a sermon, but there are always going to be two types of prophets: major prophets and minor prophets. Everybody knows about the majors, but if it wasn't for the majors couldn't become who they were. If it wasn't for the minors that laid the way. So when you understand that you're on a mission, in your case with grit and grime, yes, you got a small cluster of children that you're molding and cultivating right now that's going to do nothing but multiply, because they're going to get connected to folks with the principles and the philosophy and the integrity of the game, the integrity of life that you're embedding in them, which makes it now, going back to that statement I said earlier, money can't give you the satisfactory of that. Money can't pay for when someone comes back to you after you forgot about them because they're not right in your sight right now. They say, "Coach, I just want to thank you." I'm like, "Thank me for what?" "Well, you taught me this, you taught me that, you laid out this foundation." And so that's what we do every day. And I am so honored to have you on this platform that I really don't know what to do. And I'm being so serious right now. It just does me good.
I'm flattered. Thank you so much. I have to thank God every day that I experience that burnout moment, so I could take the time. That and COVID. If you've been a coach, I tell people, if you've been a coach, if you're a coach, you hadn't sat down till COVID. You hadn't stopped. But beyond coaching, for me, since I was 8 years old and I decided that I want to be somebody, and it changed what I want to be, but I knew I wanted to be somebody. I started like running. I had like tunnel vision. Like, I'm going to get there. And I looked up and COVID happened. I was, 33. I think I was 33. And I said, I hadn't sat down. But yes, I was young, but I hadn't sat down and really assessed what all that it took to get there. And then my grandmother, who raised me and my siblings, passed the December before COVID. And it was a great time to sit and say, okay, what do I want the next part of my life to look like? And so in my reflection, I came out of it with this new mindset toward it's going to be mission-driven, which is, I titled my book, Redefining Winning. I was a very successful high school coach, won a lot, but was frustrated. Was really, really frustrated. Didn't feel like I was making the kind of impact that I wanted to make. I didn't want them to lead just we won on the court. I was disappointed that I wasn't able to develop character and mindset in some of the kids the way I wanted to. The only reason I wanted to go into coaching was to do that. And so when I started feeling like I was falling short of that, I said, okay, I need to pivot and do this another way. And it had to be my way. It had to. And the first was I realized that nobody was really – I was obsessed with professional development. And I know I can be honest on this show. I was obsessed because I was a black volleyball coach in suburban Houston. There was 3 of us. There was a lady in Katy. There was a lady in Conroe. I could count them. Now there's about 10 outside of your inner city school districts. The inner city school districts, the North Forest, the HISD, the A-Leagues, they had black coaches. Nobody else did. So I already felt inferior I didn't feel inferior. I just was, I knew that they thought I didn't know it. So I was obsessed, spent thousands of dollars. And, well, I had some proof to back it up. My first 3 interviews when I decided I wanted to be a head coach, they offered me to come do basketball. This is not a joke. Well, Coach, we were really impressed with you. We loved your resume. You interviewed well. We think we're going to go in a different direction with volleyball, but would you mind coming to be a – absolutely not, right? Long story so that was funny. Yes, 3 times.
Yes.
So anyway, I got my chance. But anyway, spent tons of money and time on professional development because I wanted to be seen as equal. And then it dawned on me that, number one, if you're going to work with youth, if you're going to get the absolute best out of people, you're going to need more than a drill. At some point, you got enough drills. And so when I go work with coaches, it's heavy on the personal development side, how to coach Generation Z, right? Assessing your own strengths and weaknesses, your own personality, and how that works with others, having your own leadership philosophy to follow, and not going to a clinic and getting Coach so-and-so who won 5 state titles, adopting her philosophy. I started to see a coach really needs help developing their own philosophy, understanding why they want to do it, really working through why you want to do this anyway, what's the end game, and then what's it going to be, what does a win look like for you? When I got into coaching, I wanted to win. I left Prairie View very successful. All I understood was winning. I knew the sweat equity it took to win. I knew the work. I was willing to work. But I needed to understand what, at the end of this, when I retire from this, how will I know that I won? You know what I mean? So really helping coaches develop that so they, number one, last. When I had my daughter, she's going to be 7 in a week. And I started burning out of coaching when she was about 2. And obviously my goal, I have a daughter, I wanted to play volleyball. When I looked at my career and said, well, I'm done with this at 33 years old. I kind of want to do something else. I said, oh, man, there's not going to be any black volleyball coaches left. That is literally why I target black women volleyball coaches, because, and coaches, period, I do professional development for any sport. I said, if they don't get the correct professional and personal development, then they're not going to be in this. And my daughter won't be coached by somebody that looks like her. That was one of the main driving points for me, is that, number one, I got to figure out a way that I can sustain and go into this thing and have some longevity, because I've got some more kids to reach. Number 2, how do I help women of color get into this business and stay in this business so girls that look like my daughter can be coached by people that look like them? And so that was one of my that's one of my whys, is to teach every black girl I meet volleyball and to help coaches stay in the business of coaching, because our girls, need them.
You know, Coach, I've developed over years. I got a couple of years over you youngster, you know. and what I've learned, in your case, is coaching. In my case, it's broadcasting, a doctor, lawyer, teacher, whatever the case may be, there are going to always be 2 type of people in that choice of profession. Those that desire to be in that position or profession, or those who have been called to be in that profession. And the difference is so paramount that it's going to make you go like, wow. Those that desire to do a certain field, they look at the perks. They look at what I can gain from it personally and how much money can I make from it. Then those who have been called to do something, pay is not that well. I get frustrated, and every time I say I'm done, I find myself going right back to the very thing I said I didn't want to have nothing else to do with. That means that you have been called, and because you've been called to do certain things, you will create unique ways, out-of-the-box ways to reach those that the desire to be in that point of reference, that they meet you in life, that you can pour into them what has been birthed at you from conception. And you just have to grow and develop over time to realize that this is, as you stated earlier, this is my mission. And because it's your mission, you've been called to do that come hell or high water. And you get the burnout, but guess what? There's no poem say rest, but don't quit. When you take all time out, collect yourself, and you go on. I try to relate life messages to athletic terminology. It's halftime, and whatever the case may be, we got to take a break. We got to revamp and redo some things. But when you look at it, Coach, athletics and life, they're parallel. And people who don't see that, once again, they're numb. They're numb. And I'm just tickled pink behind this conversation. I don't know about you, but I'm enjoying this.
I am too. When I think about it, I think it's a unique message. I don't think we hear the stories of female coaches enough and about the journey. I love hearing people's journey. I'm a podcast fanatic. I'm a read everybody's bio. I need to know your story. I need to know all the stuff. You know, I approach life with a sense of curiosity. I've been like that since I was a kid. My grandmother helped kind of develop that in me and push me to stay curious. But I'm loving having this conversation because I wish more female coaches would speak about it. I hope it inspires somebody. I've started talking about burnout and my whole pivot and redirection about 2 years ago, and now I'll get some inboxes from some people who thought they were kind of experiencing burnout or know they still love coaching and impacting young people but need a way forward. They know they need to reset and kind of redefine what that looks like. They like, man, I'm so inspired. Like, I would have never said it. In the coaching community, we don't ever talk about burnout or because, you know, people might think, oh, you selfish, you weren't in this for the right reason, you know. And so I've enjoyed telling my story. I'm glad you're giving me the opportunity to do so. You know, I hope somebody that hears it, whether it's an athlete or a coach or a parent, just gain some better insight about volleyball, about personal development, about being courageous, about stepping out of your comfort zone. Because me stepping out of that comfort zone, I'm just a public school volleyball coach, catapulted all of this. I said, wait a minute, God, I've gained all these skills, you know, what would I go and do with it? When you coach 10 years, you say it takes 10 years to look like an overnight success or to be an expert in something. 10 years, 10,000 hours, there's all these theories. And I really felt like at 10 years, I think I had developed a little makeshift drill book. I had these different methodologies I had used over the years at different places. I had these ways I thought, how do you get kids that are late to the sport good? How do you get them good fast? I kind of became a professional at that. Like, it was a skill set I really, you know, I took a lot of pride in. Okay, I got some kids who started a couple years ago. I got a kid that just, you know, is going to start in the 9th grade. How do I merge the two and we still have some success here? I developed all this stuff and said, well, if I'm done with coaching, what would I go and do with all this stuff? You know, and
that leads me to this. That leads me to this with explain how one can sign up for your course and how long generally is the course and what are the things that they should expect to gain from your course.
So we do run sessions in sort of cohort style, and we'll run one this summer. When I took a job back, I kind of scaled back on the course, and instead sports organizations or school districts actually bring me out for a full day or a half day workshop. So that's the first thing. You have the option to bring me in person. And if it's for a volleyball program specifically, it's a mixture, a combination of personal development and on-court sessions to help you now use your new tools you've learned in your personal development and different strategies for communicating and all that. I demo what that looks like when you actually start coaching athletes. When I do other sports, it's all-day sessions with understanding how to give feedback, coaching, motivating, communicating with Generation Z, resolving conflict, season planning, practice planning, teaching in a progression, developing your skills, language or program language. So things like that are what I'm heavy on, especially if it's not volleyball, which is my sport. With volleyball, it gets more in depth to coaching, my specific coaching philosophies. But I do one-on-one mentorship. So they can reach out to me via email. I'm also on LinkedIn to set those up. And so we build out what are your goals, and we plan a specific amount of times to meet and just help you to prepare for your next season. And that includes tons of content that I have prepared, from teaching and improving your kids' mental game, templates to help you plan your season, your practice, all types of checklists and things. So, yeah, don't exactly offer the course anymore. Still have all the content. When the world opened up, so the course happened for over a year and a half. When people started back bringing people in, consultants in, I went away from just offering the course and kind of took those concepts on the road. So I meet with individuals. We come up, talk about their challenges and their mission and their goals, and then I propose some things that would help, and then we kind of go from there. So I do virtual. I got some clients in Washington, D.C. There's a club volleyball program I get online, and I consult with them once a month on various topics. There's some school districts I partner with, Spring ISD. I do some leadership work with them. I've done some coaching clinics with them. Been down to San Antonio. So I travel when my schedule allows, especially in the summer, and then I'm available for virtual. So my email is clients@TamikaNewman.com. My website is TamikaNewman.com. You're able to fill out a contact form to reach me there. On social media, on Twitter, I'm @CoachNoExcuses. Facebook is just my first name, last name. LinkedIn, again, first name, last name. Instagram, GGA_2019. So that stands for Grit and Grind Athletics. Yeah, okay. So I'm everywhere on all the social media platforms. Direct message feature is open and available. That's it, I think.
That's it? Okay, well, look. I am definitely going to be keeping in contact with you if you don't mind an old man checking in on you every now and then. But this has truly, truly been an honor, a blessing, enlightening for me, and I'm sure the listeners through the Open Mic Broadcast Network. But you got to promise that you're going to come back on our show.
Oh, yeah, I need to be a regular. This was fun.
Okay, look, if you have not because you asked not, right? And we're going to make sure that we get together when this is over with and sort out something. But look, I want to give you an opportunity, Coach, to have some closing thoughts and comments. I know we've been well over our scheduled time, but this has been so enlightening. I didn't want to cut off anything. So I'll give you some closing thoughts and comments right now.
I try to live by this daily, and that's expect to win. Expect to win, and I define it as expect a positive outcome. If you are setting ambitious goals and you're working toward them every day, then expect to win.
Expect to win. I'm liking that. She is none other than Miss Tamika Newman of Grit and Grind. And I'm sorry, you said Grit and Grind
Athletics.
Athletics. Grit and Grind Athletics. And a personal developer, phenomenal woman, a PV grad, a productive Panther till the day we leave here. And, of course, I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. You can follow me on Twitter at The Mike Prince Show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Open Mic Broadcast Network and visit our website at obnradio.com. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.